Bonn Park podcast is supported by Sonny's. Established in the summer of '65, Sonny's Drive-In is all about tradition. It started in the age of Sonny and Cher, the Beatles, and popular films like Mary Poppins and The Sound of Music, when the kids of Waterloo Region would pull up in their Mustang convertibles to get a burger and fries. Those kids are still coming to Sonny's, 55 years later, now bringing their grandkids and fond memories of simpler times. The famous burger joint, both a landmark and a beloved institution, with its half-century-old charms, have kept their menu familiar after all these years, serving up their char-broiled hamburgers, award-winning fresh-cut fries, legendary onion rings, and chocolate milkshakes. Then there's Sonny's famous fish and chips, along with a deliciously juicy plant-based Beyond Meat burger for vegetarians, with its slightly charred, strikingly meat-like flavor. Sonny's has something for every kind of taste, from their bacon cheese dog, Italian sausage, and spicy crispy chicken, to schnitzel on a Kaiser, poutine, and gyros on a pita. With their nostalgic signage and weekly specials, Sonny's is a trip down memory lane, preserving the history of our community with their old school vibe, warm hospitality, and familiar faces behind the counter, like owner Paul Newsis. Grateful for their longtime regulars and the business Sonny's has maintained during these trying times, Paul is especially appreciative of the frontline workers who he can't thank enough. So come on in for an old-fashioned Sonny's burger, a thing of charred, simple beauty, topped your way with tomatoes, lettuce, onion, and pickles, and a side order of their famous hand-cut fries that intermingle magically with their special fry sauce, and support a local destination favorite since 1965. Sonny's Drive-In is located at 256 Weber Street North in Waterloo. Visit them online at sonnysdrivein.com or get delivery super fast to your door through DoorDash or Uber Eats.
Welcome to Bonn Park.
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 Welcome to Bonn Park. I'm Sara Geidlinger.
And I'm Marshall Ward.
And today we have Rob Witherspoon.
Rob is a musician that I've known for about 20 years now, and he was with the band the Speed River Valley Mountain Boys, and he's based in Heidelberg, and now he's doing a fantastic show called Tuesday Live, streamed on Facebook.
Yeah, he's got guests and he's got theme nights. There's even some improvisational comedy that happens.
Yeah, it's an awesome variety show, and I can't wait to hear some of his original songs tonight.
I'm really excited to hear some live music. It's been a long time since I've seen music in person.
Me too. I'm a big fan of Rob Witherspoon and his cousin Willie.
His cousin Willie. We'll hear all about that. Here's Rob Witherspoon.
Everybody needs a place to go. Everybody needs some way to know that they're just loved. Why do we hurt the ones we love? Why don't we lift them up instead of putting them down and just love? 'Cause deep inside every one of us, there's something brighter than gold waiting to shine out. Keep it covered up with a layer of clay. We gotta start washing it off someday with just love. Be here for a very short time, lie in the sun and drink sweet wine and just love. We'll all be here and then be gone. Instead of harsh words and singing sad songs, let's just laugh. 'Cause deep inside every one of us, there's something brighter than gold waiting to shine out. Keep it covered up with a layer of clay. We gotta start washing it off someday with just love. just gonna do. If you join with me, well then we would make two. We need more giving, less taken away. If we get started now, we'll get there someday to just love. You find it in your heart if you look deep enough. You find the only thing that we really need now. It's just love. It's hard to just love in a world full of hate. If we get started now, it won't be too late to just love. Deep inside every one of us, there's something brighter than gold waiting to shine out. We keep it covered up with a layer of clay. We gotta start washing it off someday with just love. Just love. Just love. Just love. Just love. Back in the summer of '74, I needed you, but I wanted more, that's true. We ride our bikes out to the lake, you sure look great, and you know that I sure loved you. Sketch the clouds, we'd sail the wind, lie in the sun till it went in. How did those good times become so long ago? I often think of you, do you ever think of me? Do you ever wonder what might have been? But that was far too long ago. Go by, old memories fade, but in my mind there's still a slow parade. Sometimes good and sometimes bad, the things we lost, the things we thought we had. Like when you sketched the clouds, we'd sail the wind, lie in the sun till it went in. How did those good times become so long ago? I often think of you, do you ever think of me? Do you ever wonder what might have been? But that was far too long ago. I try to keep looking straight ahead. Sometimes I turn and look back and think about what we once had. It's never black or white or gray or old. No, we never even made it past gold. Like when you sketched the clouds, we'd sail the wind and lie in the sun till it went in. How did those good times become so long ago?
Rob Witherspoon, thank you so much for joining us today.
Well, it's great to be here.
I just wanted to find out how you and Marshall met.
Yeah, so I met Rob 20 years ago at a Fred Eaglesmith concert at the St. Jacob's Schoolhouse Theatre. Rob's a friend of my brother's, and but it was years later that I learned that Rob was a musician. And from the moment I heard his recordings with the Speed River Valley Mountain Boys, I became a fan of his. And anyways, yeah, it's been 20 years since I first met Rob.
That's right. That's, as I recall it as well. I mean, it was your brother who found Fred Eaglesmith, I guess. We saw a poster for it somewhere and said, hey, we should go see that. I've heard something about this guy. Let's go see him. And then not sure if you were at that first concert where Fred was playing acoustically,
No, I wasn't at that one.
but shortly after we saw you at those, and then I never ever went to one again that you weren't at.
Right. Yeah, we've been to many, and I feel like I can hear Fred's music influencing yours.
Yeah, certainly Fred really, when I started seeing what Fred was doing, it sort of, because, we see as in the media, we see all these people, James Taylor, some of the people, I think John Prine, they're like these Americans, or, Neil Young or Bruce Cockburn, sort of these iconic figures in entertainment. Then you see a guy like Fred Eaglesmith who's making a living doing it kind of his own way and just kind of singing songs that he wants to sing. And that's sort of kind of inspired me to say, well, it gave me some confidence anyways that, maybe there was a pathway for me to be more of an entertainer in music than just kind of, we were playing around a lot and, but that's sort of, and particularly in the songwriting side, although I had been writing songs before then. I think I wrote my first song, I'm going to date myself, but probably about 40 years ago when I was like just finished university. I wrote a song about the Seaway Project. I grew up down in Eastern Ontario, and there was they flooded a huge area, and I wrote a song about that, which was a little ironic because my dad, the reason we ended up living there is because my dad was an engineer who managed the water levels through the Seaway system. So, maybe he was sort of partially responsible for the flooding, but but I sympathized with the folks there who were displaced and wrote a song about it. And that's kind of the first thing. And then from there, I've just kind of written songs on and off for a long time.
Let's jump into Tuesday Live, which is your Tuesday night scheduled programming.
Yes.
And how did that all begin?
That started, well, I had I always enjoy playing Irish music. I started out playing bluegrass music, so that has sort of strong Celtic influence, and I've never really considered myself a Celtic musician, but I always enjoyed playing Irish songs. I enjoyed this sort of the energy of them, and so I always like to have at least one St. Patrick's Day gig, and I had lined up one. I was going to play at a seniors residence in Fergus, and of course with the pandemic and everything, it got canceled sort of fairly last minute, certainly within the week before it started. So I'd already invested a lot of time into working on the Irish songs. When you're a musician who performs out and does in KW Oktoberfest, St. Patrick's Day, there's a bit of a cycle. Year to year, you learn the St. Patrick's Day songs when you're getting closer to St. Patrick's Day, or relearn them. So I had them put a lot of time into them. I was enjoying playing them. I thought, well, what am I going to do now? I can't get a last minute gig because a lot of other places weren't obviously either canceling, they weren't starting new performances. So I thought, I'd done a little bit of live streaming on Facebook a few times. I thought, well, let's just jump in with both feet and try this. And so I also do a little bit of improv comedy. So I thought, well, I'll do a character. So I did Robbie O'Spoon, who's an Irish fella who came and performed. When I actually put on my dad, who passed away a little over a year ago, he always wore kind of an ascot type hat. And that was kind of this, I had the story. It was a magic hat that my great Irish grandmother had given, and it was for whenever her boys were over in the New World, they could put the hat on, they'd be Irish again. So I put it on, sang that, and had I can't remember 20 or 30 people watching. I think I played for about an hour of Irish music, and people seemed to be enthusiastic. And I thought, well, this is fun, and something to do was during the pandemic. So I did another one, and then I think about the fourth one, I was just kind of doing. I did one of all Canadian music. And I did one of sort of the music that had influenced me when I was, becoming a musician. And then the night of the third one, I got off the air, so to speak, and found out that John Prine had passed away. And John Prine, a huge influence on my music. I really enjoyed listening to John, saw him perform as well. And I thought it'd be nice to do a John Prine tribute. But then I thought, well, there's a lot of other musicians out there who would like to be involved. So I sort of reached out to some people I knew, and then another musician showed up who was a friend of a friend, and they came on, and that was I thought, well, that's kind of fun. I don't have to prepare as much material, and it gets, other people involved, and they bring in people, their friends to watch. And then I thought, because I'm involved in the sort of the local comedy scene, and one of our mutual friends, Tim Farrell's a local comedian of sorts, and he volunteered to come on, and then I've done a few little skits, and I've always had my Willie Witherspoon, my sort of alter ego, Willie Witherspoon, my cousin from South Carolina, and he came on. Then he also has a friend by the name Pat Ricky Bobby, who's from North Carolina, and so they both sort of do a little bit of interaction there as well. So just it's kind of evolved into a variety show. I kind of see myself as kind of a modern day Ed Sullivan. And most of your audience probably won't know who that was, but he was a guy who ran a variety show.
Everybody in this room knows. That's so wonderful. What a great project to focus on during this time. Because even tonight, listening to you play 3 songs for us before we got recording here, wow, like I've really missed live music, and I didn't realize it until I started to hear you. And you know, there's something we've talked before on the podcast about how we all listen to MP3s now, and they're flattened, and you don't get the same endorphins because you're not listening to the same amount of sound unless you're going to record or write to live music. And I did get that feeling tonight. You gave me happy endorphins tonight, so thank you. So you're sharing that with other people in a different way through this live stream. I think that's wonderful.
Yeah, and certainly, you know, part of it is trying to sort of generate some joy and happiness and love through all of this, because we're all a little anxious about it. And, you know, I'm not immune to that, but this gives me something to focus on, as opposed to other things you can focus on during a pandemic.
Yeah.
And so, you know, it's also, you know, we're also, I think, all missing the community of, you know, whether it's live music, going to a concert, you know, hanging out, meeting other people, seeing some friends. This is a way for people to kind of congregate online and have a little bit of interaction. And one feature we introduced a couple weeks ago was that we have an after party on Zoom. So, you know, not too many people show up, but there's a few people come, and we have
you need to see a couple people for a party.
Exactly.
Right?
We just, you know, chat a bit about the show and about, you know, just things in general. And so, you know, that's all I really see. I see that now I'm sort of curating a community and you know, hopefully bringing people some joy and, you know, something to look forward to each week, that, you know, away from the news that we're sort of being overwhelmed
bombarded with.
Yes.
Yeah, I think spreading joy is such an important thing. Those digital communities are becoming so important, and they're becoming something that we're finding we have to readjust to navigate our way through. Like, oh, this is something completely new for me, and how am I going to situate myself to enjoy this, or use it to my advantage, or become part of that community, you know, because that's not what the internet is typically about, right? It's typically about anti-community in a lot of ways. I did find, you mentioned about like spreading joy and love. So I did find that was a big theme throughout some of your music, through your lyrics. Yeah. The one song, Just Love, I really enjoyed when you said we need more giving and less taking away, which I completely agree with. I try to live by that. We're not always perfect, right?
Right. Oh, of course.
But I try.
Of course.
I try so hard. And I really it really struck a chord with me when you said in that same song, if we get started now, it won't be too late.
Yes.
Can you tell me what the inspiration for that song was?
You know, that's interesting. Where any of my songs come from. That song was just kind of, a lot of my songs I'll be noodling around on the guitar and I'll just find a little lick or something and it just sort of feels right, and then I'll expand a little bit, and then I'll maybe find a word or a little hook or something. And Just Love was kind of the hook that came to me. And you know, one thing I do, I'm a writer of sorts, and I blog on my website a bit, but I write every day. I found that very helpful. And certainly, you know, encourage anyone out there who's listening, if you're, you know, a good way to sort of work through things in your own mind is to put them on paper, get them out of your mind. And so I write affirmations every day, and I'm not sure if Just Love became an affirmation before it became a song, or whether it became an affirmation after it became a song. But it's kind of, I was really trying to focus in on, I was trying to think, well, what is there one thing, you know, life gets so complicated. Is there one thing I can kind of focus on that's very pointed and has a sharp focus that you know, might make me a better person? And so that's kind of, I thought, you know, Just Love is that, you know, that's kind of almost like a mantra. It's, you know, love, I guess, could be the simplest form of that, but you know, it races away everything else, you know. And again, you know, as you say, I'm certainly not perfect, far from it. But you know, that gives me something to try to come back to, something to grab onto as we, you know, we navigate our way through the rapids of life.
Yeah, especially now.
Yes, especially now. So, you know, inspiration, you know, I think it is, a lot of my songs just kind of happen, which, you know, you kind of have to put the time in to make them happen, but it just sort of, you know, I can't really key in on one thing that song was inspired by, other than just trying to, you know, work with a little lick that I kind of was noodling around with my guitar and finding some words, and then just kind of all came together, and you know, and then you work on it a bit.
I think that's the magic of it. I think that type of lyrical writing is more stream of consciousness than we give it credit for. Like, you're not sitting down and looking for rhyming words. It's coming to you as you're working through the song. Yeah, that's beautiful.
I mean, sometimes you have to go back and you run into awkward segments or something, but but it's but yeah, no, a lot of stuff just sort of comes, just like you have to put the time in to make to have it come. It's not going to come if you're like on YouTube or something.
Yeah.
I was communicating this idea to my sister Kathy King, who's a musician and has been a guest on Tuesday Live now twice, and how something I never imagined this happening for me, but in 10 weeks, so 10 episodes, Tuesday Live has become something I haven't experienced in years. And what I mean is, I think it feels to me like a TV show that I'm anticipating, and now I look forward to Tuesday night. And when Tuesday comes, I'm now it's 4:00, and I know Tuesday Live is going to be on in 3 hours. Sorry, have I got that right?
Yeah.
And then it's at 6:00, and I'm waiting, and at 6:45, I've already got. I'm in front of the computer, and I'm waiting, and it reminds me of when I was a kid.
Waiting for a show.
I had to watch Love Boat on Sunday night at 8 p.m. with my mom. Yeah. And I couldn't imagine missing it. And although things can get in the way sometimes in our adult lives, Tuesday Live for me is a destination. It's that's what I'm thinking about. When I wake up, as soon as I wake up on Tuesday, I'm thinking tonight's the night for the next show. And Tuesday Live, as each episode goes by, it's full of surprises. I never know what's coming next. And the way Rob builds a set list and brings the guests in, and there's a bit of comedy, and it keeps surprising me. And I can't think of too many things in my life like that just keep coming and surprising you, and you can't wait to see the next one. And I don't know, it's really touched something in me from my.
Well, I appreciate that, Marshall. And I found this week we went to YouTube because we were on Facebook, and we could talk for hours on Facebook and how doesn't really build. I find Facebook doesn't build community. It tries to prevent it from happening and tries to force you and tries to curate your experience. Because like
it does, yeah.
I had people like 2 weeks ago were telling me, we tried to find a show, we couldn't find it. And I thought, well, that's not right. So I looked into it a little more and found I could stream to YouTube as well. But now that we're on YouTube, it's a little better. People have smart TVs were telling me they're putting up on the big screen. So
yeah, and it's not as filtered and curated was such a good word that you used. Yeah, people are a little naive about that about Facebook.
Yeah.
All my feed says this. Well, there's a reason.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. It also sounds like it's reminding you what day of the week it is.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is nice.
Which is hard to know right now.
Yeah, and that's true. That's true. I mean, and it's Tuesday Live because St. Patrick's Day was on Tuesday night. So that's how it came to be. And then it's just I sort of thought, and then okay, it's Tuesday, I guess. And I've got lots of ideas, and I'm always sort of thinking, well, how can I make this, to Marshall's surprise? And there's some thought that goes into that in terms of I think about. What can I do? I'm always trying to do something different. I don't want just to become, I didn't want just to become me playing songs because, by the time I got about 3 episodes doing it myself, I said, I'm starting to run out of songs I'm comfortable with here.
Right.
And people were like requesting like Chicago and stuff like that. And I don't have a horn section. And so, Yet. Might recruit one. So, so kind of expanding that. And, the next thing I'm looking at, hoping to get into would be, doing, getting other people involved, doing whatever, all sorts of creative things. Like I'm, as far as I'm the producer, but I consider myself the curator. And, if the community, if someone from the community wants to come forward and, share a funny video of their cat, throw it over. We'll probably put it on because I'm, that means one less song I have to sing or something like that.
And somebody will enjoy that.
And somebody will enjoy it. Yeah, exactly.
I want to explain the reason I recommended that, requested that Chicago song.
Oh my God, it was you?
Yeah.
Which song?
So it's with the opening lyric, everybody needs a little time away.
Just for the day.
Yeah. From each other, right? And I heard that in the grocery store. I remember thinking, this really speaks to me right now because everybody's walking around with their masks on and trying to social distance. And I thought, I wonder if Rob can do that. And but anyways,
I'm working on Marsh. I'm working on figuring out how to make my guitar sound a little bit like
Peter Cetera, though. Isn't that Peter Cetera from that era? Like he's got a voice.
Yes.
Yeah. Speaking of voices, what do you hear in your voice, Rob? Like, were you happy with your voice when you first heard it being recorded?
I think we all, when we first hear our voices recorded, are kind of like, who's that?
It's jarring.
Yes, it is. It is because it's obviously the oral experience in terms inside our head is different from what we hear when it's processed through a recording. I did one of my Christmas gifts when I was a young kid was a reel-to-reel tape deck I got for Christmas one year, and I goofed around with that a bit. So I had some experience with it, and singing. You start singing and you sort of. When I first started playing with the Speed River Valley Mountain Boys band, I actually was the mandolin player, and because I had the mandolin, and Dave was the guitar player. And it turns out, we we just started singing stuff, bluegrass stuff mostly at the time, songs at the time. And it just turns out I had, two things. I had a better memory for lyrics and I had a better voice. So it just happened. And am I happy with my, I'm always looking to improve my voice. And I know as I get older, that's going to become a challenge because I'm going to start, your voice starts weakening. You go listen to someone like Gordon Lightfoot, who's certainly getting on in years and his voice is not as strong. It's just, it's part of life. But I'm hoping I can kind of evolve the way I play songs. I've kind of backed off my guitar a lot to bring my voice forward. That's something I've learned a bit over time is that, you don't need to play the guitar loud. The guitar is really just kind of a, and because I tend to write more lyrically, I tend to want people to kind of try to listen to my words a bit more. I mean, a lot of people don't because, the venues you play, but that's what I try to, I consider myself more of a lyricist than a musician per se. You're not going to see a lot of super fancy chord changes with me, but,
yeah, I thought you stick to the low end of the neck a little bit, but
Yes.
it works for you. You're moving. You're not just, faking your way through it. You're moving. You're making that low end
Yeah.
work for you.
Yeah.
I'm glad that you said that about recognizing the storytelling in your lyricism, because when you were playing your songs, I wrote that down, and I really feel like I hear Canadian in your music.
right.
I feel like I hear storytelling, and the names that I wrote down were Daniel Linois, Gordon Lightfoot, and actually Danny Michelle, who's
Right, yeah.
a local musician. And especially in the last song, Not Long Ago, I really felt like there was some parallels there, not for a specific song that it sounded like, but just that sort of Canadian relaxed folk storytelling, which is such a beautiful thing. And it's so heartwarming to us because it's where, our zone is,
Yes.
I grew up listening to my uncles and my dad play a lot of guitar and playing sort of old songs around the campfire, and that feeling of that relaxed, beautiful, it seems like it's without effort storytelling.
Right,
I know
right.
it's not without
Yeah,
effort.
yeah.
Is just something that I think we all kind of need a little bit more of right
Sure.
now, and at any time, really. Yeah. And I think it's so beautiful that you recognize that in your own music. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I sort of, a lot of the times that I think about a lot of the music playing, like some of the most special times were like just around a campfire on the edge of a lake, and which is a very obviously a very Canadian experience. We have so many lakes, and it's cold. We need fire to keep us warm. So, that's a. I don't think it's a uniquely Canadian, but it certainly is a Canadian experience.
And our Canadian experience with that has a certain sound and
Yes.
a certain temperature,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, that's certainly part of what. But I play some. I have some other music like that's you're getting a certain part of my music, but I do some other things that are a little bit like I have a song called Waterbed, which is a little peculiar. It's about a guy who wants to put a hole in a waterbed because his girlfriend's left him for another guy. So that's his
Well,
that's
now
a
I have
revenge.
to hear it.
In Collingwood.
No,
Ski Bum in Collingwood? No, is that?
No, that's Mad River Blues.
Oh,
you're
yeah,
thinking
Mad
of.
River
Mad River Blues. That's another one. That's another. Yeah, and I have, for someone who's been in a relationship for a very long time, a lot of my songs are, breakup relationships,
Yeah.
which I've really no experience with.
Well, there's two songs that were about lost love.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. I mean, one song, the one song I sang too long ago, that was kind of inspired by, an old high school romance and sort of, thinking back, reflecting back, you think of these decisions you make in life where, you go in different directions and how different your life would be if you had done something different or made a different decision at a time. So it's just kind of, that kind of looking back and
It's almost like you mourn it. Like you're not wanting to make a change in your life now, but you mourn that time that's passed
yes.
and like respect it for what it was, right?
Exactly. Sort of thinking, reflecting on those, but, realizing that, this is where I am now. And, we need, and I think a lot of the theme folds back to which I try to be is kind of be really more in the moment, that, try to extract the greatest joy out of this moment I'm in right now, as opposed to, thinking about what happened in the past or didn't happen in the past or what's going to happen in the future or may not happen in the future. It's it's sometimes it's reflecting on that. Did I get the most out of that moment? And you can't go back and extract anymore, but certainly you can fiddle around when you're a musician. You can fiddle around with the memories a little bit. And, and turn them into a song. So
Yeah, nobody knows but you.
exactly.
Right?
Something really neat that's happened for me with Tuesday Live is I'm discovering music that for whatever reason it wasn't on my radar. So an example is I could not name a John Prine song prior to Rob's John Prine tribute. And then there's this song called Speed of the Sound of Loneliness.
Mm-hmm.
What a gorgeous song. I've never heard this song before, you know? Or my sister Kathy King this past week played a John Mellencamp song. I've never heard this song before.
Yes.
And so I'm discovering music through Tuesday Live, where I'll hear it. Maybe it's Rob Curry, Rob Moss, is that another name?
Yes, Rob Moss from Alberta.
Bet and Blair Smith, Dave Smith,
Yeah.
Sandy Mackay, right?
Yeah.
And
Bob McLean.
Bob McLean.
Yeah.
And I'm hearing these songs for the first time, and then I need to go hear the originals.
Right.
And so Tuesday Live often has me, even when the show is done, I need to go hear the originals of these songs. Yeah.
Oh, I
And
think
it's
that's great.
it's interesting because I think what it does is brings in all these different musicians who have different songs that they've either adapted or have inspired them or they just like, and they play it and play their own particular interpretation of it. And like I say, it brings music out. In particular, since to be honest, I hope to get some younger people on, but it's a lot of us have a lot of life experience, so there's a lot of music we've listened to over the years, and the musicians have picked up that they can share and expose to other people who might have, for whatever reason, they were listening to Meatloaf at the time and they missed out on John Prine or something.
Yeah.
One of my favorite parts of Rob's show is when his cousin Willie comes from South Carolina, and I've actually seen Willie perform. So I've seen Rob perform a full 2 sets at maybe the Heidelberg Tavern, and then Rob's show's done, and then out comes Willie, who has a striking resemblance to Rob.
You're kidding.
And
he's my cousin, supposedly.
Well, he's a stock car driver.
Yeah.
So he's fully decked out. Right?
And he wears his racing suit.
Yeah, and he'll play a few songs like maybe Wagon Wheel or Country Roads. John Denver's song, Take Me Home, Country Roads. Yeah. Anyways, and then on Tuesday Live, he's out in your shed because that's where he lives.
Yes.
And also for social distancing purposes, that makes sense. And
yes, it's good. Social distancing is a good thing when it comes to Willie.
Yeah. So Willie brings a lot to
yes
to your show.
Yes.
I also I love.
And he takes some things when I let him into the house. So.
The resident comic Tim Farrell, I love his delivery.
Yes,
there's something. So it's like this. It's like that straight-faced journalistic kind of way of presenting information, but it's in the form of a joke.
Yes.
Yeah, just awesome, Rob.
That's very good. Yeah, it's great. I'm really enjoying it. It's tremendous fun, and it's opened up.
You must be already by the time the show is done, you must be already planning for the next week.
I'm thinking ahead. Basically, this is my sort of Sunday night because now that I'm doing this Tuesday Live, Tuesday's my Friday. So once Tuesday Live's over, I was sort of Wednesday and Thursday. I was out doing some gardening today and things that I'd put off on the weekend. Luckily, it was kind of a lousy weekend last weekend. But so I usually start. I try to organize it as far in advance as I can. But usually Thursday, Friday things start heating up. Then over the weekend, because a lot of people that are contributing, have day jobs still of some sort. So tracking them down and getting them to contribute something, I try to get them to get something in and go from there, and then I sort of see what needs to fill in the gaps. And
your one song tonight, Too Many Moments, yeah. That makes me think of songs, how there's certain songs that touch on things. I'm thinking of Tom Cochrane's Big League.
Right.
And that song I can hear every so often, and it's amazing how it can evoke the same feelings in you.
Right.
Or Tom Cochrane has another song where it speaks of a certain place, and although I haven't been to that place, it relates to some other place that you've been. Is that how you find when you're songwriting? You're often thinking in a broader sense, this may be your place that you're remembering or thinking about, but everyone should be able to relate to it in some way.
Yeah, I mean, that particular song has a really interesting history in terms. I wrote that quite a long time ago. My friend David Duke, who played music he was a mandolin player with me in Speed River Valley Mountain Boys. His son, when his son was 12 years old, and his ex-partner his son was with Dave's ex-partner and was in a car accident and died. And so that was kind of, Dave and I are very close friends. That was a very sort of traumatic experience in our lives, obviously more so for Dave. But I kind of wrote that song, was kind of inspired by that, thinking of this young 12-year-old boy who was just, a beautiful young, becoming a young man, and, that this life was cut short. And that's kind of reflected in that song. But then, Dave and I, we never played it because, it was just too emotional for us to perform. And then when Dave passed away in a few years ago from cancer, that's when I sort of kind of revisited that song and then pulled it back out and made it, kind of a song thinking about, losing people and that sort of thing. So that song, in fact, I've just really pulled it out recently. That's really probably one of the first times I think that is probably the first time I've performed it in front of anyone other than just in my own home. So I thought I'd get it out. And I'm still it's still a bit of a work in progress, but I kind of have that little sort of, I was trying to make kind of a mournful type bagpipe almost like thing at the front there with a little, and at the end with a little part. But yes, and again, I don't know what that will evoke in other people. I mean, I just certainly don't want to be a singer-songwriter who, brings people down, but by the same token,
that's also part of storytelling.
Well, it's part of storytelling. It's part of life. We certainly have to. We can't just sort of ignore these, traumatic events. I think singing about them, talking about them, thinking about them helps us just process them and get to the other side of them.
And you certainly have songs that are very funny. I think of Power Tools.
Yes.
And great humor there.
Yeah.
I think about how. So I've seen you perform in venues where there's noise and there's like clinking of glasses and maybe like Block 3 Brewery or whatnot. Yeah. And the people around you maybe are listening really well, but there's still lots of other activity going on. And then there you are Tuesday live in your basement. You can't see anybody,
right,
but you are getting some kind of feedback. Those must be two incredibly different experiences, playing in a craft brewery where you have people, but not everybody's completely engaged with the music.
Yeah, I mean, they didn't come there, they didn't come there to necessarily listen to me. They're there to have a few pints with their friends, and
the music is a bonus.
And the music is there.
Yeah. And then there you are in your basement performing to a camera, and but you're not feeling the people in the
yes.
room.
Yes. Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's different. I don't find, in some ways I find it, it's a little bit, it's because you're sort of, there's people out there.
But it's a little bit like, are you guys there?
Yeah,
You still hear me?
Well, part of it, sometimes they can't, and sometimes I've had a few camera freezes because I'm doing like in really old equipment, and so yeah, it's a different experience. But what I try to do, and this was like a long time ago when I worked at the University of Guelph for most of my career, and I had a job that involved some media involvement, so I took a media relations course, and the guy who taught it his name was, I think it was Bruce something, but he used to do, if you're old enough, you might remember the Kraft commercials. He was the voice of the Kraft commercials.
Yeah.
Very distinct voice and very nice man. And he said something that stuck with me ever since. He said, whenever you're talking to the media, just imagine that, you're talking, you have, your either your elderly mother or your aunt or just somebody who, that is, listens to you. And, and just, obviously his message was, try to explain it in a way that person would understand. But by the same token, when I'm looking into that, little thing on my iPhone, which I use as a camera, I try to think, okay, who am I looking at? I often try to just think of one person I know might be out there and just or somebody's living room I'm looking into. And I try to do a bit, not, you have to be careful. You don't want to be creepy and kind of staring into the camera. Ooh, psycho guy. But, turn him off. But no, it's, so, a little bit of that is, and the other thing, I touched on it briefly before is, I got into improv. And it's kind of interesting because, one thing in terms of being a musician, for the longest time we were musicians and we thought, we'll just, we get up, play the songs, people will listen. If they don't listen, well, that's okay. I guess we're hopefully we'll get paid. And, but then, then it took me a long time to realize, I'm not really a musician. I'm an entertainer. And there's a lot of good musicians who are poor entertainers, and there's a lot of poor musicians who are good entertainers.
100%. That's a good observation.
And I think the good entertainers are sometimes better than the good musicians because only the musicians appreciate the good musicians for the most part.
That's totally true. Yep.
And so I thought, and I've always sort of been interested in comedy. So I went looking for a stand-up comedy course, and I found this place over in Guelph, and they're in KW2 now, the Making Box. And they do improv stuff. And I thought, well, that's not really stand-up, but I'll try it. And I found it's been really fantastic. One thing is very supportive community that you work with, but it gives you the opportunity to kind of go, be completely weird and silly, and which allows you to explore, the fringes of your behavior and somehow how people react to it. So so in terms of performance, I found that very helpful as well. When I'm doing in my basement, I sort of think of, I think of, how am I presenting myself and how are people reacting, which, in improv, because a lot of it's like listening, and like, I'm not working with listening with somebody because I'm just there by myself. So it's I kind of have to think of the audience. And so that's, I've had doing some improv training, I've had the opportunity to sort of work with thinking of an audience. So I kind of imagine an audience out there, which helps as well. And I'm not sure if I went anywhere with it.
No,
you went everywhere. That was great.
I'd actually like to talk a bit more about comedy.
Yeah.
Because Sara and I haven't talked too much about this.
About how funny I am?
Yeah. But I always think to myself, what motivates people to do that? It just seems like you're putting
terrifying.
When it's not, you can see when it's not going well, the person's up there, they're all alone, and just, what in the world do you do? And when it's bang on, I watch like Ellen DeGeneres, her comedy show, like just every second of it is just brilliant.
She has a team of writers.
Yeah.
Yes.
That pick through the best material.
Yeah. And George Carlin and just Jim Jeffries. And anyways.
I mean, those guys, that's craft.
It is.
Like you look at.
They work on that for years.
You go some of the stuff, like there's some good interviews with Jerry Seinfeld.
Where he talks about the chimps playing with sticks in the dirt?
Yeah.
Yeah, where he's talking about the craft of that joke. Like it started with apes and twigs and mud. And he's like, that's not funny. And it evolved to monkeys, which evolved to chimps. Like, what's the funnier word? And it took him years to construct that little phrase. Yeah.
But sorry, Marshall, you were going somewhere with comedy.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, we both went off on you.
Yeah, what motivates you to go into something that's just, I don't know. Just,
why are you doing it?
When it doesn't go well, it can be such a mess. Like it's.
It is. Comedy has to be the most kind of, authentic is maybe not the right word, but the most exposed. Because you're not, you're not hiding behind a guitar, you're not hiding behind a song, you're not hiding behind something that, you're just going out there and doing something. And I know certainly the stand-up comics, this has to be a very difficult time for them because their craft is so much audience interaction. And I've been to a few comedy shows over Zoom, and
it's not the same though.
It's not the same, but it's very difficult. So
I find that even when I'm watching like late night stuff now, like I enjoy Seth Meyers' Closer Look or some Jimmy Fallon or John Oliver or whatever, and it's just, it's different. It's very different.
Yeah, I wanted to enjoy that Saturday Night Live that they did. Like,
I'm a diehard for SNL, but it was weird.
And there were some good parts in it, but just some of it just didn't work.
Yeah.
But you kind of have to respect it for what it is.
Yeah, and that's and certainly things like improv too. Like obviously you're building off the audience. When the audience, you see something, something the audience reacts to, then okay, we'll come back to that later. And same with comedians, but without the audience feedback, it makes it very challenging to do. But I always Tim Farrell, who's our resident comedian on Tuesday Live, he threw in a couple weeks ago, put a laugh track on his.
Smart.
And it's true. That having community laughter is we like to laugh as a group. In fact, I was quite interested. I actually wrote a blog post about it a while back about laughter, and I did a little research, and apparently they think evolutionarily that laughter was, the apes or monkeys or whatever were chimps, and they heard like a rustle in the leaves, and they thought it was a predator, and when they realized it wasn't a predator, they kind of laughed. It was relief. So that laughter is kind of an expression of relief, and I think there's some truth to that.
Totally is.
That and it's sometimes hard to find laughter right now. There's lots of it out there. There's lots of great podcasts and stuff that are humorous, and there's lots of great comedians that are doing stuff online. And
your resident comic, Tim Farrell. Sara hasn't seen it, but it's hard for me to explain what makes it so funny. It's a 1 minute story, and it's a nice clean story.
Yeah.
And but it's his delivery of it. It's the composition, how his head's framed in the shot.
Yes.
And I think it's the fact that what makes it so funny is it's this joke it's not the funniest joke in the world. It's very traditional and clean, but I think it's the seriousness in how he's telling it that I can't explain it, but I find that absolutely hilarious. Mm-hmm. Can you see it? What's going on there that makes that so funny?
I think he's just kind of it's almost like there's kind of a tension there, but it's a humorous tension between, he's trying to be so serious, but he's also trying to be really funny at the same time. He's doing but it's.
Were there ever comedians Sara? This is a question for you too. There are comedians that I think of how at the time when Chris Farley was alive on SNL, I didn't get that humor. I thought that was.
Oh my God! I still repeat those jokes. So that was some of the funniest stuff.
At the time, I thought this guy was way over the top. He reminded me of a a student you went to high school with who just would do anything.
That's
to
why
get
it was
attention.
funny.
It was so needy and so desperate, and I didn't appreciate it at all.
But he was needy and desperate.
Yeah, and now I fully appreciate it.
Like, I cannot keep my act together when I see Chris Farley do Fat Guy in Little Coat from
Right.
Tommy Boy.
Yeah.
I just, that's one of the funniest things I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
And it's so simple and ridiculous.
Yeah, I think John Candy was sort of that
Oh,
kind of like he's sort of
totally.
like
Yeah.
very sensitive,
Yeah.
you know, kind of, but you know,
And
it's
gentle, yeah.
gentle
Mhm.
and sensitive, but also just hilariously funny too.
Yeah.
How do you explain improv? Like, I know what improv is. It's a hard thing to explain to somebody.
Yes, and that's all I know.
Well, yes, and that's I mean the whole premise of improv is, you know, yes, and you know, supporting your scene partner. It's collaborative creation, but you know, collaborative creation in the moment. It's very much in the moment. Like, you get suggestions from the audience, and then you create a scene out of it, and you build on, you know, depends how many people are in the scene. You build on what they say, and you know, kind of you support them, they support you, and it's, you know, I think improv probably is the type of craft that it probably almost always looks better in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Like when you're in the audience, just because it's the whole atmosphere of it, and it's the, you know, the whole build up and everything. And then because I know I've recorded some of mine, or I've seen recordings of some of my improv performances, and you know, the audience was laughing. I was having a great time. And then I look in aftermath and, well, that wasn't really that funny, but it's
But
just...
isn't it sometimes about that building of tension, and it was
Exactly.
in the moment?
Yes.
You can't really recreate it by watching it,
Yes.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And is it okay to be? I've seen improv where somebody on that stage, there's no way they're going to be able to get to where they need to get to because maybe they've never watched Monty Python.
Right.
Or one time I was watching something, and if you didn't know who Gandalf was from Lord of the Rings,
Yes.
you
Lost.
you were lost. And is that okay in improv to be in these situations where it could be the entire room could be in on the joke, but if you don't know who Milli Vanilli is,
Yes.
that thing will not come to a conclusion in the way that I think everybody's. Am I right about that?
Oh, for sure. And you know, I mean, that's one of my greatest struggles in doing improv is because, you know, I'll say the majority of people that I've done improv with are you know, younger. You know, certainly in this area, a lot of the people doing it are sort of, you know, late 20s to maybe early 40s. I mean, obviously there's outliers and a lot of it's quite a diverse group, but in terms of the audience, so what I'm getting at here is there are often a lot of cultural references that just kind of blow right over my head. And then, of course, when I laid down a connection, I was something about Mars bars and Nancy Green. That kind of went over their heads. So
Right.
they were just kind of, what?
Yeah.
So I've always been careful when I do improv not to do too many, you know, my cultural references because they just, you know, they draw blanks. But you know, it is, you know, basically it's just a unique, creative, supportive community, and it's just, you know, it's just kind of, there's a real kind of, it lifts you up. It's, you know, because
You learn about yourself, I think.
you
like
learn
more,
about
yeah.
yourself, and you know, you learn about other people, but you know, it's all, you know, we don't have, you know, and sadly in our society, we don't have a lot of situations and opportunities where we're in a room with a group of people and everybody is supporting everybody else. Like we just, you know, even at workplaces, there's tensions between the boss, and there might be tensions between different people working. You know, obviously in families, there's a lot of that too, and even in friend groups, there's a lot of. Whereas in this, typically, it's pretty supportive. It's just kind of the culture of improv.
Mm-hmm.
And I know, I'm sure if you got into, improv groups, when you get into a professional improv group where you're working with people all the time, I'm sure probably it degenerates into like any other work environment. I don't know.
I'm sure. I'm sure it does. Yeah.
Rob, as we start to conclude, I was going to say, amazingly, you've achieved that with Tuesday Live. That feels like an hour of just love and inspiration and creativity, and just I have a feeling you don't even know yourself how you fully pulled that all together.
You know, it's just, you know, I try to listen to people who are like, I try to listen to the audience. You know, people, you know, suggest a song, I try to work on it, or if people have ideas, or, you know, if people want to do things, I just try to, you know, find a way to make it happen and find a way to, you know, to be kind and supportive to each other. You know, that's because I think we need more of that these days.
Rob had a show recently where the theme was just basically happiness.
Yeah, songs that make you happy.
Songs that make you happy. And I requested a song that Cousin Willie actually played. It's a Washboard Hank song called Chompy the Head Biter Offer, which is actually a very, very, very dark children's lullaby. But I thought about it afterwards. I thought, oh, was that like way off and requesting that song?
No, because it made you happy.
It did. It totally made me happy. I hope it made other people happy.
I think so. I didn't get any complaints anyways.
Okay, good. Rob, have you bounced around any other themes coming up?
Like I say, I'm going to keep it going. And someone asked me this today. How much longer are you going to keep doing it? I said, well, as long as people watch, and I find it enjoyable doing it. I quite enjoy doing it because there's some technological challenges and puzzles that it presents to me. But some themes. One thing I'm looking at is like a kind of a formal kind of dinner night where I'm going to put on like a jacket and tie.
That's great.
And I thought I'm going to invite everybody in the audience to put on their best duds and send in pictures because probably not too many people have probably worn a nice dress or a suit or whatever they wear for formal occasions recently. So you might want to get it out and dust it off. Make sure. Well, maybe it might not fit, but.
Or I was
It
thinking
could be part of the reason why we're not getting dressed up.
Yeah,
I was going to
DQ visits you've been making, but
I was going to suggest a theme where it's all the songs are like about a place. You know what I mean? So
yes.
So Rob plays a beautiful rendition of Margaritaville.
Right.
And I'm amazed how those songs can take you to
yes.
Hotel California can take you to another place.
Yeah.
In your heart, I think when you hear it. Yeah, and Margaritaville too. Mm-hmm. It's almost like everybody has these own visuals that go with it, right? Yeah.
My mother, who passed away last summer, she had a bumper sticker that said, "I'm the woman to blame." Which is
that's awesome.
And she was so damn proud of it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Or the song Africa, right?
Doesn't
that take everybody somewhere?
For sure.
Yeah.
So Rob, where can everybody find you?
Robspoon.com.
Mm-hmm.
That's my sort of main landing place on the internet. And that you can link to all my other socials from there.
Through there. And Tuesday Night Live?
Tuesday Night Live is on my Rob Spoon Music YouTube channel and also Rob Spoon Music Facebook page.
Rob, thanks for not just today and this music, but this Tuesday Live is like I've described it as a gift. You're giving out this free gift to people at such a time when we need it so much. So thank you.
Yeah, and, I'm hoping that for people like there was a fantastic performance recently by Bette Smith and Rob Curry that I'm hoping some people this will provide an opportunity for them to expand their audiences and provide them with some benefit because they're certainly giving a lot in terms of growing. My dream of all this is not my dream, but I guess it's at the end when we're allowed to get together again. I'd like to have like a big Tuesday Live party somewhere and just invite as many of the performers who want to come and all the audience, and we'll just sort of celebrate that we can actually be in the same room again.
Yeah.
Without being all 2 meters apart, but
just love.
Just love. Just love. Just love.
That's the theme. Thank you so much for coming, Rob. We really enjoyed this.
Well, thanks for having me. I really enjoyed it too.
Thanks, Rob.
Okay.
There's too many moments, there's too many days, there's too many memories since you went away. I barely knew you or what you'd become. Now you're just gone like a fast setting sun. The waves are breaking across my heart. I hear your voice calling out my name. I close my eyes, I see your face. Will I ever feel your touch again? When you're out on the highway, things can go wrong. Just takes a moment when somebody's gone, leaving scant memories fade far too soon. A box full of photographs, a dark empty room. The waves are breaking across my heart. hear your voice calling out my name. I close my eyes, I see your face. Will I ever feel your love again? Life just keeps rolling on. Day you're here, then the next you're gone. Tears may have fallen, but the pain burns deep inside. There's nowhere to run, there's nowhere to hide from the too many moments, the too many days, the too many memories since you went away. I barely knew you or what you'd become. Now you're a gone light that's past setting sun.
Hey all, thanks for meeting us in Bonn Park. Please like, rate, and subscribe to our podcast on the platform that you're listening to. And follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Bonn Park Podcast. Original music by Alan Lung.